himself a large online audience. He's been in the Twitter game for years, and he's the founder of the Small Bets community. Thank you for joining us today, Daniel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. Happy to share all my knowledge
Yeah,
about anything.
You're one of like the original Twitter guys who started, a while back. You've been on this platform a lot longer than some of us. Can you tell us why you started a Twitter account?
Yeah, it was, I wanted to build my name, a bit of a reputation. I quit my job at Amazon in early 2019, and I had a bit of a crisis of anxiety almost immediately. I realized nobody knows who I am. Like, I had no reputation on the internet. Like, if you Googled my name, I was completely unknown, completely obscure. And I started to thinking, okay, I mean, who would want to do business with an unknown nobody, right? And I didn't really sort of settle on Twitter immediately. I was trying many different things. I was going on Reddit, on LinkedIn, on Quora, on Stack Overflow. I'm software development background. A bunch of other places, and Twitter was the one I stuck with. So I think there was something that I enjoyed, the concision, the way of writing, and it was working for me. I started sort of helping out people just by sharing some of the things I was figuring out, and I was building an audience, right? And I was noticing that I was starting to build a small name for myself, if you will. So yeah, that's how it started.
You started back in 2009, but you said you got serious about it in 2019. What did you do for like that 10-year span? Were you just a consumer on the platform?
Yeah. I never interacted with anyone. I was just an occasional, not even frequent user of Twitter, but I don't think I have had ever even liked or commented on a tweet before. So yeah, only really started posting in February, I think, of 2019.
February of 2019. And you left your job before you started to get serious?
Yeah, literally the week before. Like, I left my job on a Friday, February 1st, and the next Monday, I started to think about what should I do. In fact, my very first tweet, I think, was linked to a blog post about my reasoning for quitting my job. Like, sort of, that's how the entire story started.
You're one of those, inspirational stories. So what was your role at Amazon, if you don't mind me asking?
I was actually just an engineer. Like, I was an individual contributor. I grew up the ranks. I was there for almost a decade, 9 years, started as a junior employee, stayed with the same team, sort of, in companies like Amazon, you could sort of climb up the ladder even if you don't take a managerial route. And that's sort of what happened to me, which, again, like, nothing wrong to say about my job there. It was quite, despite Amazon's reputation, it was quite okay. It wasn't particularly overworked. Nevertheless, I realized, a career as a full-time employee was probably quite incompatible with my preferences. So that I think it was wearing me out mentally, having to ask for permission, sort of having to work 9 to 5 to justify everything that I'm doing. All the purposeless work was just eroding my brain, and probably physically as well. So, long story short, right, it was a couple of years thinking of quitting. It was the right time, and I just took the plunge with nothing really planned, right? I just had some savings. I figured I'd find something out to make a living afterwards.
Yeah, I really love the angle that you have is like, your work should work for you in life. That's kind of the way that you approach your online business. And, it ties into exactly what you're saying right now. One of your mantras is small bets. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, it's, I think, very simply, it's just a way of working on projects, seeing it as an investment of our time. That when we're investing with our finances, we're quite disciplined, right, with our money. Usually we don't go all in on one investment, right? We diversify. We never invest more than we can tolerate losing, because we know there's uncertainty and things don't pay off. And this is a way of realizing that working on projects is an investment of our time, and time is as scarce and as precious as money, right? And I think it's somewhat foolish, right, to jump into projects without setting up a time budget of how much we're investing into one thing, right? And sort of having an expectation of what you're going to get and these kinds of things, right? So I think it's also a bit of counter to the popular attitude of attaching our projects to our identity, right? Many people who start into self-employment or build a business, suddenly they call themselves, I'm the founder of X, I'm the creator of Y, and now suddenly it's become my label, right? And nothing particularly, nothing, specifically wrong with that. I think, however, it's an insidious trap in making your project basically your pets, I like to call them. It's something you fall in love with. And when you fall in love with something, you start being irrational, like we're irrational with our pets, because we love them, they're part of our family, we might spend a lot of money on them. We shouldn't be doing that with our projects. Business is business. There's lots of uncertainty in the business world. Things are much more random than they seem. And I think it's better to treat projects like cattle rather than like pets, right, on the farm. When something doesn't work, you slaughter it, right, to be a bit colorful, right? You milk it as long as you can. And you be careful to not get too attached to things. This doesn't mean that you don't take pride in your work and you don't try to do your best work and whatever. It's just an attitude, I think, of expecting things to change as well. If I look back in the last 4 years of me working for myself, there were 4 different projects every year in the last 4 years that were sort of my main income stream. In 2019, it was one thing. In 2020, it was another thing. 2021, another thing. Last year, a different thing. And I expect this to continue to happen potentially, not because I'm doing it on purpose, but again, because I'm keeping my eyes open to new opportunities. And if I called myself just, I'm doubling down on small bets now, I would be putting the blinders on and missing out on other things that might come my way. Right. So that's my long form sort of answer, right? And sort of I started to use the term small bets very early on in 2020 on Twitter by accident. It sort of caught on a little bit, and I kept using it almost as a way of expressing our work rather than the all-in attitude that is much more common.
I love your approach. I do want to ask you a question about this, though. One of the biggest mistakes that I see beginners make, and I think you've mentioned this too, is they kind of get like the shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, I want to get this new logo or this website or this thing that doesn't matter. How do you define the difference between a small bet and, what's the difference between somebody? You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I get it. No,
diversifying too much, and
I think in my opinion, I think the challenge with the shiny object syndrome is that it's an attitude where you're almost playing in the sandbox, right? Where you're being idealistic with your business, right? You just want to build the ideal product, the ideal thing, and you keep looking for the best tool, trying to optimize everything. I think to solve the antidote to that problem is to have an intrinsic sense of urgency that you need to make a living out of these things. But I'm speaking from experience here. I did this mistake myself. My first project was one of them like that. I kept sort of building my ideal thing and ignoring reality, right? Even though I was getting lots of positive signals, but it wasn't paying the bills, right? Until sort of I came to my senses, luckily, right? And I realized that, look, if I don't do something, very soon I'm going to wipe out all my savings, right? I won't have anything to show up for, and I would have to go back to a full-time job, which, okay, not the end of the world, but certainly something I escaped from for a reason. And sort of that epiphany, that gave me the sense of urgency, like, I just need to cut everything that's unnecessary. And it's hard to explain, but it becomes almost immediately like a new part of the brain almost activates, and you start to see all the nonsense that you don't need, right? When you have this intrinsic desire to make something work, right? I think there's something very powerful in our subconscious, our gut feel, that we in the modern world we tend to ignore, and this is very helpful in guiding us how to navigate the uncertainty of what's worth adding and what's worth removing, right? Well, where do you draw the line, right? And stress test all the unnecessary things.
That's a great definition. And I feel exactly the same way. It's like there's something inside of you that motivates you to just get things done, and you wind up making things happen. And one of the most frightening things in the world is to actually go back to your 9-to-5 job. I really do believe this. Yeah. Because once you get a taste of this kind of lifestyle and working on your own and being a solopreneur, it's hard to do anything else. I could never do it. So I want to talk about this. I want to change, topic a little bit. One of your first courses that you came out with on Twitter was everyone should build themselves an audience, or everyone can build themselves an audience. So can you tell us a little bit about why everyone should build themselves an audience?
Actually, I don't necessarily think everyone must or should. That I think everyone can, however, if they want to. I think something interesting that I noticed in audience building is that it's like making friends. That everyone can make friends. That basically, that sure, there are some people who have a lot of friends and some people who have smaller circles, and I think the same thing can happen in audience building. Fundamentally, I think with audience building, there's a bit of an uncontested market around you. That if you're helping other people, if you go out of your way and answer people's questions and offer things that might be helpful to them, you're going to build a connection, right? And on social media, that connection usually materializes as a follower. Of course, it could be to other mediums, right? Or maybe an email list or something like that, but it's the same idea. And I think it's really powerful because, once you have that connection, it's an asset. It's like any other connection that you form in real life, like a contact on your iPhone contact list, right? It's somebody who has explicitly told you that they want to hear more from you, right? And, potentially life-changing things can happen from these connections, right? And I think it's a fascinating way of, navigating life, right? Where we're sort of bumping into these chance encounters with random people where serendipity can take you to a path that pretty much changes your life, at least your professional life.
Right on. What is the number one tip that you have for someone who's going to put themselves in and make a bet to be to be a digital content creator?
Content creator, yeah. Look, I know it sounds cliche, but I think it's very important to be super, super authentic. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to share everything, right? You can still draw the line, but I think too many people make the mistake of just trying to reverse engineer the algorithm and see what's what's going viral and sort of doing things where they wouldn't necessarily do themselves, right? And again, like I like to reflect on who are the people who this is probably the lesson, right? I mean, I like to look at the people who I follow and reflect on like, why am I following these people, right? And chances are there's some interesting patterns there in the people who I chose to follow myself, right? Because it's a signal, right, that for some reason I decided to click the subscribe button and hear from these people. And I think it's good to reflect on what made me follow certain people, right? I should probably apply the same things when I'm trying to gain my own followers.
Right. That is a great suggestion. Be more of yourself as opposed to chasing virality. I think that's excellent. So what does your content creation process look like? You tweet quite often, and you had a tweet go viral. I actually retweeted it, and then I saw Elon Musk gave it a like as well. It's a fantastic tweet. This is actually one of my favorite Daniel Vassallo tweets. It is a little spicy. But when I saw it scroll across my timeline, I was like, this is an absolute banger. So I'm actually going to drop a link to this tweet here in the chat. But it says you only become an adult once you have kids. Until then, you're just a grown-up child. Wow, that is, I mean, 1.5 million.
It's enough. Like, look, it's an aphorism. It's not perfect. In fact, many people in the comments gave me good alternatives of how you can also become an editor, and I completely agree with them. I think these kinds of tweet ideas, to be honest, come from, again, like having a discussion with somebody, and like in this situation. And I think now I built the sensitivity over time, right, to recognize what. Look, Twitter is not a perfect medium for everything. There are some things, again, just because because of the concision, the fact that it's just text, 280 characters, even though now you can write more, people scroll through things quickly. It's not the perfect way for articulating things with lots of nuance and whatever, right? So not everything has to be shared or has to be reflected. But over time, basically, I think to answer the question, as I live my life and I stumble into things that are tweet-worthy, I sort of formed the habit of just tweeting them right away. Right, it's literally just when the inspiration strikes. I don't have a content strategy. Right, I don't I never scheduled tweets. I never sort of have a backlog of things to post out. Right, it's all based on the moment, and I'm a big believer that that's probably the best way of that's the best way of making Twitter last. I don't disagree that if you have a content library, if you schedule tweets, you might be able to grow your followers maybe faster because you're optimizing for it. But I think for me, what would happen is I would start to hate Twitter. I really enjoy it, right? I think I would be on Twitter even if it doesn't have any impact on my businesses, right? It was just for its own purpose, basically. And I'm very careful, right? Because I noticed that there's that intrinsic interest in Twitter from me, and I'm careful not to corrupt, right? That enjoyment that I get from Twitter. And part of that is by not forcing myself to do things that I rather not do. Like, again, like I don't do you should tweet 3 times a day, you should keep a streak of tweeting every day, or write a thread every week. For example, last week, I think there were like 4 days I didn't tweet at all. I just was busy with personal life.
Whoa.
Yeah, but yeah, sure. Like I got, I maybe even lost some followers. Like I didn't get any impressions, but who cares? Like, I mean, again, like the goal, it's a long-term goal here. I just can continue to keep Twitter part of my life, right? And not making me hate it along the way.
No, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, you have to do what you have fun doing. So if it's like I really enjoy your tweets about like how you share your home projects and stuff like that in your garage. I actually want to put the same kind of flooring in my garage.
Awesome.
You have in your, but I think it's really cool. At the end of the day, you have to enjoy it. So if you enjoy these things, that's incredible. I'm trying to find it on your schedule here. I was looking through it. I had it right in my hands here, but it was a tweet. Oh, here it is. Okay, so you had a tweet here about digital products. 99% of scratch your own itch projects makes $0. The lesson I learned here: try a dozen of small projects, build on what works, and throw away the rest. So are you saying that, like, everyone? So how can somebody get that first project on the board? How about that? Like you're saying, start building a digital product, but what does somebody need to do to make that first step?
I believe it's all marketing, that you need to have an expectation of a hypothesis of what you're trying to build, how it's going to make your expectation. Look, I'm a big believer of small projects, right? So I don't necessarily think you need to choose things that are scalable or going to make you millions of dollars or whatever. But if you're starting on a project, have an expectation. Say, this would be worth it if it makes me $1,000. It could be a first good small win. But then the next question is, what's my hypothesis for how this $1,000 is going to happen? And you might say, okay, I'm going to share it on my Facebook. Maybe a few family, friends will see it. I'm going to share it on LinkedIn. Maybe my colleagues will see it then. Might get 10 customers from there, 10 customers from Facebook. Maybe I'll put some blog posts and try to rank on certain keywords on Google. And maybe over time, I'll get another 10 people from there. Have something. Of course, it's an educated guess, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but I think this is something many people miss, right? They scratch their own itch. Basically, my reaction to that is that I see many new entrepreneurs say, okay, I have this problem. I'm scratching my own itch. I'm going to build a solution for it. But they have no idea what their expectation is, which then means like that sometimes they overinvest into the project and they have no idea how that expectation, whatever it is going to happen. Build it and it will come. Build it and they will come is usually false, right? Usually doesn't happen. Of course, there's exceptions sometimes, but I don't like the odds, right? Basically, it's all marketing, right? You need to start with the market, with the go-to-market strategy, and whatever you build needs to be part of that strategy and needs to be shaped by it as well. Sometimes you realize, it's more likely that I'm satisfied this expectation if I tweak this project, right? And you reject the original idea, or you adjust it and you shape it to something different, right? So, yes, somebody's saying, curious to hear about the value of the hypothesis. It's a little bit like the scientific method, right? In science, right? You have a theory, right? That the force of gravity at sea level is 9.8 meters per second squared. You set up an experiment, you try it out to confirm that observation, right? That hypothesis, through observation. And I like to do the same thing with business. Of course, business is probably more unpredictable than science, right? But even more so, I think it's important to have these hypotheses. And I think it's also helpful because if the project fails, you can also reflect on your failure a bit more concretely, rather than just shrugs like it failed. You don't know why. You might say, "Oh, I overestimated how much attention I would get from Facebook ads, or I underestimated this, or I thought this would be easier to do or less expensive to do," and so on and so forth. So now you at least get some information out of that attempt, right? But it's important to have that hypothesis before, otherwise, right? Yeah, it's not it's not a French accent.
It's not French.
Close.
Yeah. What kind of accent is that?
I'm from Malta originally, Malta, Mediterranean.
Malta.
Yeah,
Okay.
tiny island south of Italy.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, my family's from Sicily. So
so super close.
Right across the street, right?
Yes. In fact, Dino is a very common Sicilian name, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, at least somebody gets it. But excellent. So do you have any like concrete tips to somebody who, let's say, we're in the 5 to 10,000 range. Our Twitter account has some traction. We're starting to build an audience. People are really interested in what we're talking about. Do you have any concrete tips to get that digital project out?
Look at what people are already asking you, right? And I think my successes with digital products came from reacting to the DMs I was getting and the tweet comments. Like my first small win, I think, with a digital product was a programming book, right? And initially I was talking a lot about programming topics, software programming. And I noticed that I was waking up in the morning, right, and checking my notifications and seeing people. Would you choose this technology over this one? What do you think about this versus this? So on and so forth. And I was replying to people in tweet replies in 280 characters, but I noticed that I had more to say, right? And again, my hypothesis there was, look, if I wrote a short book about this, there's a good chance, right, that these people who are asking me questions, right, and I'm replying to them in just 280 characters would likely pay $25, $35, whatever, and buy a 100-page book about my more in-depth answer to these questions. And many of my projects sort of follow the similar pattern, right? It's almost, again, just the questions that I get on Twitter are a bit my market research, right? It's basically Twitter is telling me what people are interested in specifically from me. And this is why I think, audience building is a bit of an uncontested market. Like there's like 2,000 books about AWS on Amazon being sold on the topic I wrote about. But people bought my book, right, because it was me writing it, right? And I was me sharing on Twitter and answering their questions before, right? It was a small uncontested market that I had, that the competition basically became almost irrelevant, right? So yeah, like, look, put yourself out there, answer people's questions, listen to what people are asking for. And if people are asking you for things, right, and you're, on Twitter and on other places, chances are there's interest in a more elaborate form.
If people are DMing you about it, that means they see you as an expert. And at least if one person's message, it's like you have a validated offer at that point, because people are DMing you, they see you as an expert. And if you can start solving people's problems in that particular space, that's where you have the beginning of a digital product. And I think what you say is great. Is like the biggest benefit to me of building an online audience is that you begin to see what people really want. Right.
Yeah.
You're able to just see more of the space. And if, people are coming to you, they're like, I want this, I want that. And then all you really need to do is just to provide the solution to it. And that's where you get the digital product from, or any kind of offer, really. So go ahead.
No. And to add just a tiny bit of context, like it's, yes, they might see you as an expert, but you don't need to be an expert with like 10 decades or 5 decades of experience, right? Sometimes people are just looking for help from somebody just one step above them, right? And sometimes it's easier to learn from somebody who's closer to you than somebody who's been doing something for a very, very long time, right? So again, expert is relative, right? Expert may be compared to you, right? But I think maybe to be more precise, like when people come to you, basically they're telling you that they think you figured something out. And again, like that's what it means. Like that's what happened with my social media course, Twitter course. That I don't think I was an expert. That I had only been tweeting for a year back then, but I had figured something out by then. Right, especially for people with my background. No, no, not in marketing. Right, not somebody who studied this type of thing. And that's what they came to me for. Like they wanted to know more how I started my Twitter accounts, like the conversation we're having here, right, and so on and so forth.
Let's talk about Gumroad for a second here. Both you and I are pretty big on the Gumroad platform. You've been on it longer than I, and we had Sahil on in our community back in December when the whole brouhaha went down to answer questions, and he answered all of our Qs and took all the heat. But my question is, I want to ask from a content creator's perspective, what's your take on Gumroad? Do you think it's still worth it? Do you think it's a place for content creators to get their first product going, or do you think people ought to look elsewhere?
I think if you're just starting, I was almost certainly use Gumroad. First of all, it's one of the easiest platforms to use. If you're just starting out and you don't have basically any sales, the fees don't really matter. It's not hard to move later. So, unless you're doing subscriptions, that's a bit trickier. But if you're doing one-off payments, there's no real lock-in, right? You can easily change the links you promote, and you can keep the Gumroad page there anyway. And the main benefit of Gumroad, in my opinion, is that many customers, especially on Twitter, are already familiar with it. Like, Gumroad handles something like, I think the last time Sahil told me, it was 700,000 transactions per month. And many of these people have a Gumroad account. They have their credit card saved in there. It's a one-click purchase, right? And I think when you're starting out, you have little credibility, you have little reputation. Making the sales process as easy as possible, one-click familiarity helps as well, right? With the platform, right? It's not some sleazy new marketing thing that you're trying out. Right? They trust that Gumroad is a reputable platform. It helps you. Then I think, when you start to grow, there's many other questions. I did my own analysis in end of Q1, and I realized that probably Gumroad is still worth it for me. There was a bit of, compared to all the effort I would have needed to migrate to my own thing or something different. But I'll keep reevaluating, to be honest. That right now I'm paying $4,000 a month roughly in fees, which is a bit, I wouldn't lie, right? I would love to save a part of those. But again, it needs to be assessed with like, where's my time best spent? And I'm still getting some benefits from Gumroad, right? And they keep improving the platform as well. So I keep playing it by ear. But in my opinion, if you're just starting out, keep it simple, right? Just upload your thing there, share the Gumroad link, and then optimize later once you have something that is working.
No, and this ties into kind of your philosophy, because your philosophy is a little like mine, where I just think you just need to take action and just get out there and get on their live fire. And that's one of the reasons why I started. A lot of people, one of the most popular questions, funny, in the chat, while I was asking the question, we were getting that question in the chat about Gumroad. One of the things that I love about Gumroad is that it's just so up and easy to get into. You can, get a PDF together, a couple videos, boom, you have a product. You can create a product in 2 or 3 days max, if you know what you're doing. And Gumroad is so easy because it's just, the learning curve is simple. And if you want to get that live fire and get that feedback, there's no better platform to do it than there. Whether or not the $4,000 a month, and I don't even want to look, Daniel. I don't even want to look at what I'm paying. It's bonkers. But I know it's gonna be a lot. I don't even want to say the number because people are gonna be like flabbergasted. But it's Gumroad to me is great for someone who's never gotten started before. I actually like the email functions that it has as well. I know that there's a lot of email marketers in here that are going to slap me for not saying use. I don't even use Convert. I don't have a landing page. I don't use ConvertKit. I don't do anything, and I've done over 1 million in sales. Yeah. This is primarily from, that's not all Gumroad, but it's primarily from Gumroad. And I didn't even know what Gumroad was when I got started, but it took me like an afternoon to figure out how it worked. So yeah, if you just want to figure out how to, just do something, just get it out there, Somebody's asking if you use your email list to affiliate. Do you even do any affiliate sales, or do you offer affiliates?
I used to, right? I think about in total about 5% of my sales came from affiliates. I sort of I had a bit of a mixed look. Sort of 5%, I take it. It's not, and I didn't need a lot of work from my side. On the other side, however, I had a few affiliates that were a bit too spammy, right? For my liking, they were going to go on Reddit and sort of spamming everywhere. And then I started to vet affiliates a bit better, and it started to become a bit of a chore. And again, I would consider it's nothing wrong. If you can make it work, I highly encourage you to do it. But I said that at least with my products, haven't really found the right sort of system to make to invest more time into it.
I understand exactly what you're talking about. I've had that problem as well. One of Gumroad's biggest benefits, though, I have to say, is that affiliate marketing. Again, it is so easy to get to coordinate your affiliate marketing, because you can email directly all of your affiliate marketers with one click and let them know, hey, I've got this promotion coming, I've got this coming. You can set up, it's so simple to have. I have an affiliate army of maybe like 500-600 people. I do understand what Daniel's saying with the vetting. But if you just want to get up and off the ground and dabble in it, it's the best way to go. So somebody's got a question here. This is so unsmall bet like. Daniel Vassallo only has 3 products on his Gumroad. Where's the hundreds of products? Do you prefer to focus on a small amount? Do you have to go through seasons where you have limited projects, or is 3 just it?
So those are the 3 successful ones, the 3 winners. Like I basically removed the others. So I had a few others, not just digital products, even physical products. At one point, believe it or not, I was even selling handmade cutting boards. I woodwork as a hobby.
On Gumroad?
On Gumroad, yes. And I sold a dozen or so. I made about $4,000, $5,000 in sales selling cutting boards that I made myself in my own garage. But I stopped doing it. Right, again, like it was an experiment. The orders basically stopped coming organically, and I had to advertise, and I sort of lost interest along the way. But I had other things. I had a different community. I had a paid newsletter at one point. I had a few other variations of the other products that I already have over there, like team licenses and things like that. So yeah, what you see is basically what still sells, like those 3 products, right? Of course, the small best community is the major one right now, but the other 2 are quite old. I'm still surprised, to be honest. I mean, still get a couple of sales a day from things that I barely have promoted for years. Like the AWS book, I haven't touched it, promoted it, mentioned it anywhere probably since the pandemic started, like June 2020 or something like that, which is quite fascinating to me, right, where these people even come from. I don't really know.
Wild. It's wild. You'll get a Gumroad notification at 11 at night, and it's like, I haven't even talked about this product in years. It's wild.
It's wild, yeah.
It's like dividends, right? It's almost like you're getting paid dividends on these products for forever. Adam's asking, have you thought about moving your Gumroad to reduce fees?
Yeah. The last time I sort of seriously looked into it was in March, end of March, and I looked at all my numbers, and I have a tweet somewhere if you were to look if you were to find it, right, where I did all my analysis, like all the money I was getting from Gumroad Discover, the money I was getting to affiliates, to PayPal, whatever. And back then, at least, it sort of seems like if I were to move somewhere else, yes, I would save the fees, but I would probably lose some money as well, right? And it just didn't make sense. Not consider the time and effort involved in just moving everywhere, right, and building something else. Because probably if I were to move, to be honest, I wouldn't move to another platform. I'd just build my own thing with Stripe and PayPal directly and just cut all the middlemen. So that's probably the only alternative I'm considering now. So I'm waiting, playing it by ear, right, hoping that Gumroad keeps improving, and maybe I keep postponing the decision and stay on Gumroad indefinitely. And I like Gumroad, big fan, like Sahil as well. I would consider him as friend even, right? So certainly not wanting to move. But again, business is business at the end of the day, right? And if I can save, $40,000 a year in fees, I would save them.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm looking at as well. And it's like, you know what? Somebody's listening should create an offer on how to save us with all of these fees. Somehow, you could charge maybe, $20K a year if you can save us. That's something you all to think about. I moved all my high ticket stuff off of there. That's personally what I did. So all of my guides and my courses and cohorts are on Gumroad, medium, low ticket offers. I don't see a reason to move them off, in my opinion. I don't think it's worth it. And I can move them to somewhere else and they could raise fees as well. I get, again, and I'm sure Daniel gets this. I'm sure a lot of other platforms contact you and are like, hey, we want to have you go on to, I know this. And it's like, why? Like, I mean, we could do it. I don't know. Maybe I'll experiment with that later on in the year and share what happens. Ben Carlson has a question for you. He's got any other platforms caught your eye other than Twitter, LinkedIn? And do you have any concerns about not owning your audience?
Yeah, LinkedIn, I tried. I just can't build a habit of opening the the LinkedIn app and sharing something there. I had some good success, nevertheless, even with my short timed attempt. The nice thing about LinkedIn is like there's the overlap of people who I reach on Twitter versus LinkedIn are almost completely different sets. Right? There's almost no overlap. So it's a completely new audience. But again, like it's just Twitter, I enjoy it. I enjoy it as a consumer. I enjoy posting there. Like I understand the Twitter culture. LinkedIn is still very alien to me. But I think, if you set your mind to it, right, and figure it out and sort of build a habit of making it, of opening it and checking it out, right, it can be very, very successful. I tried even Instagram, again, same thing, right? It's sort of none of the things stuck for some reason. And to be honest, something I'm really tempted to try is YouTube, right? YouTube is probably the only other platform apart from Twitter which I open every day. Like I watch mostly lots of woodworking stuff, right, and house building projects. But I enjoy YouTube as a platform, right? I like it as a consumer, and I think that's very important if you want to become a creator. I think it's hard to be a creator. This is like what they say with authors, right? It's hard to be a good author if you don't read a lot. And I think the same thing with platforms. You need to enjoy the platform to make it work.
Daniel, one thing that I've seen you do that I've never seen anybody talk about this, so I'm going to bring this up now, off of another platform, is your use of Reddit. I've seen you go on to like Our Entrepreneur and talk about your course, share some of your feedback, talk about some of your journey on there. Can you tell us a little bit whether or not going on Reddit and posting about your journey there has been beneficial to your sales?
Sales, it's a lagging indicator. Right? Certainly, I gained followers doing that. Right? I remember sharing some of the things, right? And indirectly, people look you up and they say, this guy's worth following. It's hard to attribute sales to those things, right? And to be honest, I do those, and I do them infrequently, right? And the last time I did something like on Reddit, probably a couple of years ago, actually. I did them because, again, like it's almost like a bit of a stress test. Like, I mean, Reddit is fascinating because the way the critics did their harshness is particular, right? And sort of trying to react to everyone, I think, helps me, right, clarify my thoughts. It's a good stress test. It's like going to the gym. You stress your muscles and you become a bit stronger. Right. And I think going to Reddit and sharing something and let all the sort of haters roast you and reacting to them or not reacting, I think helps me have better answers, right, to questions, and even, again, clarify my thoughts, sometimes learn things. And that's probably primarily why I do it, at least nowadays. But I think in the beginning, it is a good way of getting some followers, right, especially if you're just starting out.
I shared a link to the post I'm referencing in the chat. It's in the Our Entrepreneur. And yeah, I do think it's funny. Some people will get upset. I could definitely see Redditors getting upset when you actually ask them for money. It's like, how dare you? How should people get over that? I'm afraid to start monetizing my audience because I'm afraid that they're going to get upset when I start asking for money, or it's going to hurt my Twitter growth, or it's going to hurt the way people see me.
Look, I think the concern comes from a good place, actually, right? Because we probably don't like to be promoted all the time. But I think the problem becomes like it's like a battery, right? That when you're helping other people, you're building sort of energy in your batteries, like you're compressing the spring, right? And once you ask for something, eventually down the line, right, all the goodwill you've given, right, sort of gets released, right? And I think it's okay to ask, but yes, you shouldn't ask too soon. Now, how do you gauge when it's too soon? First of all, number one, you can't please everyone. Somebody's going to think it's too soon, and yeah, you're going to get some haters and some critics. But I think in general, again, it's like playing it by ear. Like when I was explaining the example of I'm getting DMs of people asking me, please help me with this. I'd like to know more about this, blah, blah, blah. It's basically almost people begging to buy something from me, right? Indirectly, right? And I think that's, it's, you don't get the imposter syndrome like when you see this type of signal, right? You literally see people tell you, I need your help, I want you to tell me more. And if you're offering something at a reasonable price, right, it's commerce has something interesting. This is something I learned from YouTubers, right? I mean, with woodworker YouTube, I learned a lot from YouTube, right? I sort of the many creators who gave me probably thousands of dollars of value in education. How do I pay them back? I can't just email them and tell them, look, send me your address, I'm going to write you a check. That would be awkward, right? That doesn't work. But what do YouTubers do is like they put an affiliate link to the tools that they're using or whatever. And me almost automatically, right? I use their affiliate links just to pay them back a little bit, right? For all the value that they've given me. Basically, they give me an excuse to pay them back, right? But what happened was, I watched maybe 100 videos from them before, right? So I got to know them. I got to learn a lot from them, right? They've built their trust battery, right? And once they put the affiliate link and they said, look, this helps support the channel, instead of me just going to Amazon and buy the thing on my own, right? I just use their link. They probably will never know, but I know that it's sort of a way of helping. Right? So I don't know if this helps, right? But I think again, like it's sort of this seeing it as like you're compressing this thing, you're building energy, and then eventually you ask for something, right? You'll be surprised. Like people will want to support you if they got any help from you in the past.
I want to ask about this. I love talking to digital content creators who are, I hate to say, relevant, and Daniel's relevant, and he does a lot of what we do. There was one thing that you did. I want to say this was back in September of 2020. It just absolutely blew me away that you did this. One day you decided to offer your course for free, for like, I believe a 90-minute window span or something like that. I thought it was such a strange, I was watching it from the sidelines, just looking at it like, I don't know if that's the right move or not, to give away something of such value. People might look at it and go, well, does he give away his other stuff for free, or maybe bring in the leechers? But then again, I know you're going to get a gazillion emails. For you, was that a worth it move to give away one of your courses for free?
So to clarify, it was reduced to $1, pay what you want, right? So it wasn't exactly free, right? And okay. I think it was worth it. Yes, it's built. I made lots of sales. So first of all, surprisingly, it made lots of money as well, just because of the $1 minimum, and there was the pay what you want option as well enabled on Gumroad. I made that day, I made like $20,000 in sales, and it was, I think, my highest ever day. Back then, at least until then. And I added, I don't know, probably 8,000 emails. I think the average sale price was about $3, because many people, again, it's fascinating, right? Even though it was $1 minimum, they opted to pay more, right? Some of them, and sort of the average ended up being close to $3. And it's fascinating how now I see many people have become customers of other products. And I look at their Gumroad history, right? And I noticed that they came from a $1 sale I did in 2020, right? It's such a common occurrence that makes me think, it was worth it. But again, you can't overdo it, right? Again, so you play it by ear, right? I think it was it was a low month that month, right? Basically, that's what triggered me to test it out, right? In terms of sales, and I was thinking what would be a crazy experiment to try?
So
Right.
did you
And
do it? So just I couldn't remember what the details were. Did you do it for like 90 minutes or an hour, or was it like 24
I,
hours?
I think originally I said it's 1 hour, but I kept it on for a whole day, right? Or at least until midnight of that day. Um, uh, because the reaction basically was better than I expected, right? I mean, the tweet almost went viral, at least by the standards of back then, right? I think it got like 500,000 views or something crazy like that. And
Wow.
when I was noticing it picking up, I thought and I was getting this like sales every second. I thought it would be crazy to just shut off the fire hose, right? Just to stick to the 90 minutes deadline, right? So I kept
Wow.
it on, and it's still right. Even when I turned it off at midnight, it still felt like I just shut down the fire hose, right? So I don't know if it was wise. Maybe I should have kept it a bit longer, actually, but hard to tell.
No, I think that's a fantastic. This has the wheels turning now. I think maybe I might do something like that. I don't know. That's it's really interesting. But you said it was one of your best days ever. That makes a lot of sense. So people were paying you fair value as well. Ben Carlson says brilliant marketing promotion. That's fantastic. All right, so I want to shift gears. By the way, we've got about 10 more minutes. Daniel's got to run. I want to be respectful of his time more than anything. I'm really enjoying this conversation. If you have any questions, I want you to drop them in the chat. I will read the most pertinent questions out to Daniel. I know this has been a great conversation. If you're in CPP, we are going to have an after party conversation with myself and Save Your Sons, and we're going to go over all of our notes from this. Okay. So if you want to join us in our after party, we're going to be inside of our Discord server. Yeah, absolute big thanks. What I want to shift gears here while I see some questions. I want to ask you about the ad revenue share and we were both talking about this in DMs. We saw some big content creators get paid. We're still waiting on our checks. I think we're going to see one soon. But what are your thoughts on the ad revenue share, and what are your thoughts on Elon Musk and the direction of Twitter?
I'm optimistic about Elon. I think Elon has gotten, first of all, to be honest, Elon's probably one of the first or only Twitter executives who at least uses Twitter, right? And I think that's a big benefit, right? Generally optimistic, right? Again, you can't really tell. He is a bit unpredictable, right? So maybe all the people who are saying he'll crash it, they'll be vindicated. But generally, I'm optimistic. Revenue share, of course, it's nice, right? And I think with my impression counts based on the estimates people are saying, I might be making, 4 digits per year, presumably. I'll take it. Nevertheless, I think it's it's a bit similar to YouTube as well, right? It shouldn't probably be your primary goal. I think it's just a bonus, right? If you were to take it, right? Because I think it's almost impossible to make a living out of revenue share or anything close to it unless you have 100 million followers or something crazy like that, or going viral 10 times a day. So I don't know what to think. Like I think it can be. I think people are overhyping it more than it is justified, right? And I think the part of the hype or part of the people talking about it was because it was probably a bit surprising, especially the magnitude. I think it surprised people, the amount of money they got, right? And people were probably expecting less, but still. The people I know who receives checks of $2,000, $3,000, they probably made, $500,000 in the same time. And Twitter was an important part of their business, right? So the value isn't their main thing. Like I got 20 million impressions last month. I think that has a value, right? I mean, I should be paying Twitter to have access to all those impressions. Of course,
Right. Yeah.
I won't complain, right? I'll take the check.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think of it as just like icing on the cake. If we happen to see a check, that's great and all. Yeah, and I think you're right. We're probably going to be in like that, 4 figures per year category. I guess some people would love that, but to us, it's just a small bet. That's what it is, really. It's just a small bet. I wouldn't design all of my content around that unless you did have 100 million followers. Somebody's got a really good question here, and somebody's asking about this. I get this all the time. AOP, are you ever going to do this kind of like lifetime sub for Masterclass? Okay. I want to ask Daniel about this because he has a lifetime sub with his community. That's something I'm probably never going to do, but I do want to hear Daniel talk about his lifetime and why he went with a lifetime sub. Somebody's asking about it. I'd love to hear your take on it. Why have a community with a one-time fee?
Many reasons. First of all, I think it's easier to sell. Right? In general, I think people are more likely to jump on something if it's one-time purchase. You know, we probably all have subscription fatigue. We don't like to see a line on our statement every time. And I think subscription, you never join a subscription as an impulse buy, right? You almost always pause and reflect, do I really want to join this recurring payment fee? So that was part of it. But probably part two is that, you know, in my community, people come and go, right? Life gets into the way. They joined in November of 2021, then they got a baby and changed jobs, and they didn't check into the Discord for 6 months, and then they come back and join some classes, and then again something comes up and they take a break for a year or half a year or 2 months. Like, if I had a subscription fee, many of those people would likely cancel, right? Because they say, oh, it's been 6 months, I haven't really joined Discord, I don't want to be paying this fee per month. And that's a member that I don't have access to now, right? I can't email them, they churned, right? I mean, they're not part of the group anymore. They're not top of mind, right? And nowadays I'm relying a lot on word of mouth for marketing. I think I've saturated, like I've exhausted my own reach, right? All the people who know me, who follow me, know about the community. Whoever wanted to join probably joined. Sure, there's probably a few people on the fence. But I think most of the new members are coming from word of mouth. So just people talking to their friends. And a churned member is unlikely to be talking to their friends, right? Whereas that member who was absent for 6 months, but suddenly joined a class yesterday and they liked it, might go to their workplace tomorrow, right? And say, you know, I joined this class about how to make money on YouTube by this or that, right? And you might want to check us out, right? Or join or whatever. Does it work? I don't know. Like, again, I consider almost every month or every couple of months, I think about, should I go to subscription? Should I have 2 plans? You know, it's not, and I might change in the future.
I'm going to tell you, there's one big downside to doing subscription. I can talk about the pros and cons all day because I coach a lot of people when they're building communities. One of the downsides to having a subscription, and this is why I thought you actually went with Lifetime, is that if you have your PayPal linked to your Gumroad, you're permanently stuck with a subscription service forever. So like, we're like permanently stuck on this. Now I could like have a second offer and allow people to have it, but I kind of wish that Gumroad, and I should talk to Sahil about this, had a lifetime option along with the monthly and yearly on the landing page. Like, it would allow me to do that, but there isn't one. But if you do offer a monthly and you have a PayPal link to your account, you are permanently stuck with doing a subscription service forever, and those going to PayPal, because there's no way to untether your PayPal from your Gumroad subscription service. I know I'm talking a little technical, but once you, so there is a downside to it. You know, but yeah, that's very cool. So Danny's asked this question a couple times here. I want to end on this question actually, because it's a great question. And I told Danny I would. What are some of the future plans for you? What are some future small bets that you're going to have? And what are some future plans for the small bets community?
To be honest, I'm thinking of doing almost a small bets 2.0, right? There's these experiments that I'm trying. Danny mentioned one, like the mentorship sessions, you know, doing guest classes, other things, and we've been trying them as an experiment, as a small bet. Some things work, some things less than others. And I think I have a positioning problem. Like, small bets started as a cohort course. There wasn't a community when I started, right? And it was centered around me as well, right? My community, my course, right? And whatever. I like to change that. I like it to be an educational platform where you can join, and I'm not the main character. There's many other hosts, many other classes. And I think right now it's a bit of a positioning, marketing, perception issue just because of how it started. So Q4 of this year, I believe very likely I'm going to do some repositioning, maybe a rebrand of some sort. Maybe, again, I'm not going to change the fundamental things, and of course existing members will remain will remain members, but that's what I'm thinking right now, right? So, you know, I'm taking some time off in a week, right? And when I come back mid-August, this is my next small bet. how do I get Small Bets 2.0? So that I want to almost relaunch it, right? Even though, again, it's not like I'm shutting it down and doing something else, but to launch it with a slight different positioning, right? Where it's like more the Small Bets Academy or something like that. And I'm just one of the course hosts, one of the many, right? It shouldn't be just my thing.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. All right. So I want to thank Daniel for joining us today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. We got really into the nuts and bolts of making money online. Like, we got real tactical about it. I want you all to put one thing in this chat for me right now. I want you to type in the one biggest thing that you learned in this chat. All right. So what was your biggest takeaway? What was the one biggest thing that you learned? I want to see some of what you've got there. I also want to give you all a heads up. You can follow Daniel at D Vassallo. I'm going to also send a link to his Twitter account. I'll put them in the Discord servers as well. And check out his head to his page, check out his smallbets.co and check it out. All right. So yeah, I want to read some of these comments right here. Great arguments for lifetime memberships. Yeah, I can talk about this all day. I am tied to monthly unless I do a separate thing. Adam says, start small, launch. Absolutely. What are you doing today to make money online? What are you doing? If I said you need to go make $100 today online, can you do it? Put some pressure on yourself and go put something out there. Ben says, make your sales a constant experiment. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think all of this is great. Really enjoyed the feedback. I want to see some more comments. We're going to head over to the CPP Discord server in about 15 minutes. Harrison and we've been taking notes all about what Daniel's been talking about today, and we're going to go over and review some of the best parts. I really did enjoy this conversation today. Hopefully we can have you on again. Maybe we'll talk about the 2.0 in the future.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Excellent conversation. Thanks, Dino. Thanks to everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.